This video deals with Arknights independent contractors, an Arknights Dungeons & Dragons campaign made up of Polarisu, Cesith, 7para, Dio's Opinions, Skorak, and me, which you can find on the Harmacists channel. Even if you have no idea what Dungeons & Dragons is or how it works, what you will find over there is a group of boys being boys and waifus with a story set in the world of Arknights, so come and join us every Sunday, 2 hours after the Arknights daily reset. Now gamers, grab a snack and a drink and enjoy the recap. The last time we ended with a bunch of cliffhangers, one of them right at the center of the gala. Katze's disguise has fallen. She's being held at lightning rod point by Hecate and Jeff. She thinks that she can persuade Jeff to join her side and asks him whether he cares about his brothers in arms. Then Hecate electrocutes her. On two opposing sides of the main hall, Halbert and Kelkaidra saw what just happened there. The Sancta immediately goes looking for her, Halbert tells Semblance about it, and the two also go looking for her. No one is really surprised about what just happened. After a while of searching for Katze, the three meet up. Kelkaidra is very different to usual. He seems really angry, but apparently not because of the Katze situation. There's something else bothering him. While Helly and Kelly talk, Semblance says that she wants to talk to Sun and starts walking towards the building's elevator. The two boys follow. Rock examines the secret lab he had found. Despite there not being any lamps, it's illuminated in a weird blue hue. He might not be very knowledgeable about technology, but the crocodile can tell that this place is incredibly high tech. At the back of the room there are 5 weird human-sized tubes. Rock examines them. They have names inscribed on them. From left to right: Project Crimson, Project Golden, Project Asia, Project Silver, and Project Juniper. Below those names, some have further inscriptions. On the Asia one it says Prototype, on the Crimson one it says Horns, and on the Golden one it says Sun. The latter two are handwritten. The thing that really sticks out to Rock, there actually are people in the Crimson and Juniper tubes. He makes a decision. With all of his might, he punches the Crimson tube. Nothing happens. So he punches the tube's control panel instead. It starts to open. As soon as he realizes that, he also punches the panel for Juniper. It also starts to open. Rock runs towards the door leading out of the lab, getting ready to dash out if the two people coming out will be hostile. Nothing happens though. He approaches the tubes. It appears that both people are unconscious. The person in the Juniper tube is a wyver with really long green hair. Rock checks for her pulse. She has a pulse. He throws her over his shoulder and checks on the person in the Crimson tube. She's a short Oni with black hair. She doesn't have a pulse. From what he can tell, she is dead. He throws her over his shoulder anyway, and while holding both, he runs out of the building, leaving the bag with the crew's weapons in the secret lab. The Archosaurus in a tuxedo carrying one incapacitated and one dead person confidently walks to a nearby park. He then slides into Mem's DMs, because he wants him to come and pick up those two. Slowly Katze regains consciousness. She appears to be in a cubicle in some sort of office area. After her vision adjusts, she can see Jeff and Hecate. They seem to be having a very heated discussion. Jeff is trying to explain himself because Hecate wants to know why such an important enemy is following him everywhere. He assures her that she is just a psychopath who has a tail fetish. Hecate is pretty sure though that Jeff has the hots for her, but he loudly proclaims that he definitely doesn't. Then they notice that Katze is awake. She has a tear in her eye. Hecate approaches her. She demands information. Everything. Katze agrees to telling everything, but only if it's under 4 eyes with Jeff. They kinda are okay with that, and Hecate leaves Jeff alone with Katze. She says that she believes in Jeff and that he will make the right decision. She tells him about how Sun has some weird intentions, about how he uses gang members for human experiments, going as far as turning them into horrifying monsters. Of course Jeff doesn't believe her. Katze says that she has proof. A former gang associate who now is working with Eden Logistics, Dr. Amanda. Amanda is working for Eden Logistics, that's true, but until now the gang thought that she was kidnapped by unknown enemies. telling the gang that she willingly betrayed them and switched sides maybe wasn't the best idea. Jeff takes out his phone and orders the arrest of Dr. D, who took over Amanda's clinic. Hecate walks back in. Obviously, she has been listening the entire time. Now she wants to torture Katze. From her perspective, the cat just explained to her how they disrupted the gang's medical supply line, nothing more. Since all of that didn't really work, Katze now tells them about Asia, since she is a former gang member who now is with Eden as well. Both of them have never heard the name Asia in their lives before. Katze has to think for a moment, then she remembers that Dr. Amanda called Asia Ren, which apparently is her real name? So now she tells them about Ren. That rings a bell. Jeff remembers her. According to him, she was working for them until around a week ago, but then she decided to leave the gang. He wants Katze to give some evidence about her now working for Eden. Katze makes him the offer to talk to her in person. Jeff says that he knows that he's gonna regret this, but he uses his tail to untie her. Hecate nearly flips out. She tells Jeff that he shouldn't question Sun like that. He might have been nervous lately due to how the government of Corenia treats him, yet he still is the only good thing they both ever had in their lives. Jeff doesn't know who to believe anymore. He really wants to talk to Asia. Hecate calms down. She gets close to Katze. To her, she is a liar. She doesn't like the way she uses her feelings for Jeff. People who lie about love are the ones I cannot forgive, she says. Then they get going. Rock at the park. He has contacted Mem and told him that he hates him, but also about the tubes and the two people he more or less rescued. He's now waiting for Mem to come and pick them up. Suddenly, something pokes his back. The green-haired Wither has woken up. She's completely freaked out. She doesn't know where she is or what's happening. Rock tells her that he rescued her and the only girl from a man called Sun and the Trifector gang. Once she sees the Oni, her mood changes. She now wants to rescue her from him and forms a mace out of her hair. Rock is pretty calm. He says that she can just take the Oni and leave, but warns her that she's gonna stick out a lot in the city running around with weaponized hair. As he says that, Project Juniper seems to snap out of something, looks down at her hair, then starts to scream and jumps back while all her hair goes limp. She thinks she turned into a monster. Rock manages to get her attention, assuring her that having some silly hair magic doesn't make her a monster. She tries to figure out how the hair stuff works and cuts a small tree into pieces within seconds. Then she puts it back together. Rock says that she obviously doesn't know how her powers work and advises her to stay calm. Jeff, Hecate and Katze arrive at the main floor. Now Jeff wants to know from Katze how they can talk to Ren. The cat pulls out her earpiece and contacts Asia. The sloth picks up, but after hearing Katze talk in the disrespectful way she usually talks to her, she immediately ends the call. Jeff takes the earpiece from Katze and uses it to contact Asia himself. Apparently, they actually know each other. They both decide to meet up at the bar. Semblance, Halbert and Kelkaidra are in the front of the elevator, ready to go up in order to go to Sun. They call Spike, the sniper positioned on the nearby building, in order to tell him that Katze was caught. Spike says that he's pretty sure that he saw her at the 13th floor. They set the elevator to go to that floor and ask Spike to cover them once they get there. While going up, Semblance decides that she wants to contact Asia as well. We lost the cat, she says, once the sloth asks what's up. I found her, she says, explaining the whole thing with Jeff contacting her and whatnot. She originally just wanted to lead them there so that she could sneak past them, but the CEOs say that she should meet them and talk to them until they get there as well. If I die, I'm killing you all, Asia says, not happy with that plan. Semblance assures her that she will be fine. They tell the elevator to go down. Now it's time to contact Rock and ask about their weapons. He is still at the park, and while Juniper is rambling in the background, he tells them, I have adopted a very spunky dragon, and I have abandoned the mission. When they ask about their weapons' whereabouts, he says that he has left them in the lab. Then he realizes that he should probably tell them about the lab and the tubes he found. He does so, and when Rock casually mentions that he opened a tube called Crimson and now carries around the dead girl who was inside of it, Kelkaidra interrupts him. He shouts at him, asking why he opened it, telling him that there was a reason for her being in there. After a while, he calms down. When asked about that, he refuses to elaborate. Semblance hangs up the call. Seems like they have to go to the bar without their equipment. Meanwhile, Mem has pulled up to the park in a car. Rock introduces him as Asshole to Juniper. The masked snake explains his relation to Rock and offers Juniper food and shelter until things are sorted out. Despite saying that she expects them to stab her, she gets in the car. Rock also hands Crimson to Mem. While doing so, he explains how according to QaiserMLG she apparently was supposed to stay in the tubes he found, and that the Sancta was quite angry when explaining that. Mem recognizes her, he calls her Lady Horns, and says that she's been dead for years. He also says that QaiserMLG was angry because Rock just killed his best friend. Then he leaves. The crocodile doesn't understand how he could have killed someone who was already dead. People die when they are killed, he says. Then he cracks his neck and dashes back towards the Triple Dawn building as fast as possible. Jeff and the others arrive at the bar and he immediately hugs Asia. He seems very happy to see her. They all sit down and start talking. It doesn't take long until one thing becomes apparent. They have completely different versions of why Asia left the gang in their heads. Jeff thought that she just decided to stop working for them, while Asia thinks that she has been put into a tube and turned into a cyborg. Hecate is having a completely different conversation with herself. With what everyone is saying, it appears like the man she is admiring most likely lied. She tries to drown her sadness in shots and tries to convince everyone that Sun must have had a good reason for what he did. In this situation, no one really takes the drunk Forte with a broken heart very seriously though. Katze asks Jeff whether all of this adds more weight to her words. He still has trouble believing all of that. The others have arrived. Hecate jumps behind the bar counter. With an incredibly scared face, she points at QaiserMLG, saying that he will kill everyone here. Jeff tells her to calm down, since the Eden people here are unarmed. She replies by saying that he doesn't need to be armed for something like that. QaiserMLG looks at the rather confused Jeff and says, "I guess you are new here." Halbert asks Hecate to get out from behind the counter. She just throws a bottle of whiskey after him and continues talking about QaiserMLG until he tells her to shut up. The reason for that is that she has been referring to him as Halo, a name he doesn't want to be called by. Semblance tries to negotiate with Jeff about how all of them should proceed in this situation. She wants to just go to Sun and talk to him so that everything will be sorted out once and for all. She didn't really want to fight him from the get-go. Jeff agrees with her plan. They all go to the elevator. Rock has managed to get back to the building and enters the lab once more. He's been sprinting the entire time. Once he calms down, he notices someone standing there. "What did you do?" says a very angry-looking Sun, who is standing next to the Crimson Tube. He charges towards Rock and slams against him. Grabbing him by the collar, he yells at him, saying that he wants Crimson. "You mean the dead woman who was inside of that container?" Rock asks. Sun punches him to the ground. He is both angry and confused, rambling about how he doesn't understand why this snake is after him. Rock is also pretty confused. He doesn't understand his anger. Then Semblance calls him. Before Rock can answer, Sun swiftly takes his earpiece and tells them through it to get to the 50th floor. It seems like he has been talking to one specific person. "Halo, I think we have some catching up to do. Bring your friends as well. We're gonna see whose side you're on." And then, "Halo, I can bring her back. Just why the hell did you let him?" And before he can finish that sentence, he crushes the earpiece out of sheer anger. Rock has gotten up and again says that he doesn't understand why Sun is mad. The Lupo just taps the crocodile's chest and he instantly falls unconscious. Everyone in the elevator heard all of that. The situation is very tense. Semblance asks Asia whether she really wants to go and see Sun, but the sloth is very open to the idea of finally finding out the truth. The Draco says, "Don't worry, all truths come out in the elevator ride that is a part of the Semblance amusement park." Asia sighs. "You're lucky that you are cute." While on the elevator, QaiserMLG finally elaborates a bit about his past with Sun. He was something like a brother to him. The two of them and the Crimson Girl Rock mentioned were the ones to form the Trifactor gang. Halo, Sun and Horns. 3 factors. They arrive at Sun's floor. He was awaiting them. Behind him, a very weak-looking Rock and the sack with their weapons are lying on the floor. The Lupo greets them. He seems very composed, but one can still feel his anger. He offers everyone a seat. QaiserMLG confidently sits down, the others do the same. They all got their weapons back. Sun says that he wants Crimson back. While doing so, he mixes a cocktail and places it down in front of QaiserMLG. He also has an offer to him. He wants him to join up with him again. He is able to bring her back. He just needs him, and the three can rule the city together. He points at Rock, saying that he might have set them back, but that he can still do it. Rock wants to give a response, but QaiserMLG asks him to get some rest instead. QaiserMLG doesn't want to join Sun again. He doesn't like the fact that he now wants to bring her back, after everything he has done to her. Sun also has something to say to his old friend. He says that QaiserMLG always runs once something just slightly goes wrong. You are the one that turned his back to her. He completely loses his composure. Why did you leave? Did everything mean so little to you? Did I mean so little to you? He wants him to not run away any longer. He also doesn't want his old friend to ruin his life with all of that alcohol. QaiserMLG is unimpressed. He wants to know how many more people Sun is going to sacrifice just to bring her back. Apparently 3 more. Sun is very convinced of that. And the fact that once the Oni is revived, they will all take this city over. Semblant speaks up. 3 more? Will they also end up like Ren? He briefly looks at the sloth she is pointing at, but doesn't reply to what she says. Rock puts a hand on Sun's shoulder. While Sun and QaiserMLG were talking, he made his way to the rest of the group and collected all their earpieces which they use for communication. He looks at the Lupo with a very sad face and starts speaking. I do not need to know you to understand that you are going through something very difficult right now. Sun, now that I know what I have done, I will apologize to you. Unlike some people here, I think that what you are trying to do is beautiful even. I think that laws and rules are made, but can't be broken at the right circumstances. Reviving someone from the dead might be seen as blasphemy, but if you can do it, it would be beautiful. People would be able to see their parents and great-parents again. What you are trying to do, I understand. But the sacrifices? Harming other people for your own gain? How many more crimsons will you make before you have your own back? As many as it takes. Why? Because it's all I have. Her and that idiot over there on the table. That is not what I'm asking. Rock explains that city folk are weak. Sun, though, is named after the thing giving this world life. He stands on top of many other people, and yet he says that he needs to sacrifice people. If you are truly strong, you would get what you want without sacrificing innocence. When did I ever claim to be strong? You obtained all of this, and yet you claim to not be strong. It seems like Mem and you are closer than you thought. Perhaps. He takes Rock's hand off from his shoulder and turns to Jeff and Hecate with an ice-cold stare. He calls them pawns and tells them to get out, since they are not useful to him anymore. QaiserMLG knows that he doesn't mean that at all. Sun really is just telling them to leave so that they won't be here for what's about to happen. Hearing that, Hecate breaks. While crying, she tries to reach out for Sun, but Jeff grabs her. He is kinda getting what's going on here, so he gets her out of the room. Simultaneously, Rock was distancing himself from Sun and calls out for him to get his attention once more. The Lupo takes off his jacket, revealing all of his long, majestic hair, and looks at Rock. If the 3 do not succeed, how many lives are you going to take? Will it ever stop? I will take as many as this world can give. Rock sighs. He seems very sad. He holds all the earpieces he has close to his mouth and loudly says, Ma'am, situations have changed. Atomize Crimson so that she can never be returned. He then crushes all the earpieces the party had in his hand. Semblance rushes up to him, telling him that they needed those to tell Spike where to aim and stuff. QaiserMLG looks as if he was ready to kill Rock. But the crocodile just says, no matter how many you kill now, you will never get your wish, Sun. Sun grins. He pulls out a healing syringe and tosses it to Rock, who seems confused by that gesture. Sun explains, this is not an act of charity, Lizard. It's simple. The more blood you have inside of you, the more fun it will be crushing you. He also says that thanks to Rock, the amount of people he has to kill is limited. He points to everyone still in the room, apart from QaiserMLG, but including himself. He looks at the Sancta and tells him to leave. On the first floor, he will find papers that will transfer Triple Dawn Industries and everything associated with the company to him. QaiserMLG laughs. He says that he will not run away this time. Helbert draws his sword. He says, you disgust me. He doesn't like the idea of bringing back people and making their deaths meaningless. He also says, lay harm to anyone within this group, and I'm gonna shove my foot so far up your ass that I'm gonna feel your face through my boots. The fight against Sun is disgustingly brutal. He is fighting using his claws with an incredible speed and precision, while dodging rocks and Cesith's arrows, and even catching some of them mid-air and throwing them back at them. He hurts Rock and immediately takes down Semblance. Her front almost explodes in blood. Kelkaedra, Halberd and Asia rush forward, engaging him. Lying on the ground, Semblance notices something weird. Something below Asia's clothes is bluely glowing, and Sun also notices it. The Lupo casts his arts. A golden beam forms inside of his palms, and he does a full 360, damaging most of the Eden people and the building itself. The walls and the roof slowly start to collapse. Then he turns invisible. Katze engages him and hits him out of his invisibility. Halberd sees Semblance on the verge of death. He casts one of the shields he usually casts around himself on Semblance. It allows her to get up, while her body is still in mortal danger. The fight has turned into a battle of attrition by now. Asia's glow is getting stronger by the second. Halberd is badly injured. Kelkaedra is down. The roof of the building by now has completely collapsed and fallen down off the skyscraper. During the fight, Asia was getting faster and faster. Then she suddenly falls down on her knees, screaming loud as hell. Blue glowing lines appear all around her body. Her eyes go completely blue. Semblance, kept up by the shield, rushes forward, pushes Asia away from Sun and strikes him with her sword. He has noticed everything that was happening to Asia and stops fighting. Completely ignoring everyone, he walks to the bar area of the room. He is unbothered by the Eden people hitting him with their attacks. The entire time there were 3 glasses standing there. 1 blue, 1 green and 1 grey. He takes the green and the grey one and throws them away. He takes the blue one, saying, "It was you, wasn't it?" and gulps it down in one go. He then proclaims, "The only true way to make everything better. Time!" Semblance notices something. Everyone and everything gets slower and slower. In slow motion, Rock shouts at Sun, telling him to walk away from this now, because if not, he's gonna end another life. He points his bow and arrow at Kelkaedra's unconscious body. Halberd gets in front of the Sancta, and golden lines appear all over Sun as he dashes towards Rock. The crocodile turns around and fires his arrow at the charging wolf. As that happens, Semblance now really sees that everything apart from her is incredibly slowed down. She notices something else. Asia, who's still cowering on the ground, is holding on to a piece of fabric of Semblance's clothes. The Draco senses that that's the reason to why she is not getting slowed down. Semblance grabs her by the shoulders. Asia right now is breaking the time-space continuum and is going through a, you might say, existential crisis because of that. She looks in her eyes and tells her that everything will be fine. Asia's eyes turn blue again, and Semblance feels a sudden pulse as the sloth's scarf flies away and her robotic arm explodes while she lets out a massive cry. Semblance looks around. Everything has a greyish hue to it. Everything is frozen. Rock with his bow, an arrow mid-air, Sun charging, the building collapsing. Time has stopped. The only 2 who are not being held by the time bubble are Asia and her. The sloth now gets a panic attack, looking around, hyperventilating. Semblance gets to her, and in order to calm her down, she kisses her on the cheek. "I don't remember you being this weak. You're stronger than this. Don't panic. It will be okay." And that works. Asia calms down. The 2 walk around the room. Semblance can move freely without holding on to her. The sloth walks to the bar and gets herself a drink. Semblance sits down next to her. They discuss what they should do now. Asia makes the suggestion to turn back time by around 1 week, so all of that would never happen. The good ending, so to speak. Semblance doesn't like the idea because that might mean that she will never end up meeting Asia. But the time-bending sloth assures her that the 2 of them, and only the 2 of them, will know about this. Semblance gets a napkin and folds it into a diamond-like shape. She shows it to her and says, "I'm already looking for someone else, but I'll add you to the list. No matter what happens in this time, I'll find you." Asia grins, gets up, cracks her neck and says, "Wow, you just sounded super lame right now." Semblance is pretty surprised by that, but before she can react, Asia kisses her full on the lips. She then gets up, takes a good look around, grunts, and everything changes. Semblance finds herself sitting. Her memories are kinda all over the place. She takes a good look around. It's Sun's room. Halbert and him are talking about the fashion gala. Rock and Kalkaidra are also sitting there. Katze isn't here, she is actually competing in the gala. While she performs on the runway, a Manticore man lifts his glass to her and she winks at him. While Semblance is just sitting there, Halbert and Sun agree on the terms of the alliance between Eden Logistics and the Trifecta gang. The gang will pay 5,000 LMD in order to pay for the Eden HQ's repairs. Sun has been a very nice guy. He is known to have done some good work for the local infected community. He has introduced the CEOs to some very nice and interesting contacts over the past couple of days, and he is very happy to establish an official cooperation with Eden. Kalkaidra was the only one who did really talk with him a lot during that time. After the cooperation has been set in stone, the Lupo kinda makes the first step. He calls his old Sancta friend by the name Halo, and he invites him to maybe later grab a drink or something in order to catch up a bit. Kalkaidra is open to that idea. Sun smiles and gets up. Next to the door, his two bodyguards, Ox and Hecate, were waiting for him. He wraps his arm around the shoulder of her, and they all leave together. Semblance has woken up to a reality in which Eden Logistics has never attempted to kill Sun or to destroy the gang. They have just taken 1 or 2 regular contracts, doing regular mercenary work in Corinia. And they have some really nice staff. There's Mem and Lamet, then there are the combat operators Spike, Thorn and Juniper, then there's Dr. Amanda, who's an official medical staff, and they even have an official fashion consultant called Linus. The CEOs continued to spend some time at the gala, but eventually, as it got pretty late, they make their way back to the HQ. Mem greets them, and they report on how their relationship with Sun was successfully established. Everyone goes about their business, some already go to bed, but Semblance gets asked by Mem to see him in his office. As the door closes behind her, the Snake of Eden asks, "That was strange, now was it?" Semblance asks what was strange in his opinion, but Mem just looks at her. She then realizes that she has been holding a napkin folded into a diamond-like shape the entire time. "Do you think you did the right thing?" he asks. She thinks that he is talking about the negotiations, but Mem makes it clear that he is talking about something entirely else. "If anything, my mind is great enough to survive something so feeble as what? A week back?" He knows about everything. He elaborates about how Asia's sacrifice was able to fix a lot, but not everything. "And she will never be back," Semblance says. But Mem has a surprise for her. He hands her a piece of paper. It's a contract for a newly hired secretary. It's for a Pilosa in a wheelchair, and Semblance recognizes her name. "She's outside right now," Mem says. After excusing herself, she slowly walks out of his office and then just runs towards the main entrance. Outside of the door, a sloth wearing a red scarf is sitting in a mechanical wheelchair. Semblance immediately goes to hug her. It is in fact Ren, and she recognizes the Draco CEO. "I know this is gonna sound lame," Semblance says, "but welcome home." Holy hell, what an ending. Everything has fallen into its place. Eden Logistics is officially open for business. Everything up until now was Arc 1 of Arknights Independent Contractors. We don't have a name for the arc yet. If you have a cool one, feel free to put it in the comments. The next summary will cover Session 9, our Halloween special, which is among my personal favorites, if I may say so. Get ready for some spookiness. And if you don't want to wait for the summary, go ahead and watch the stream. It's definitely one of the best sessions we have had so far, totally worth watching. Other than that, remember to go to the Harmacists channel. We will be waiting for you there, every Sunday, 2 hours after the Arknights Daily Reset. Also, check out everyone involved with the projects. All the links are in the description. Now, let me take a moment to thank my absolutely wonderful channel supporters and operators, and the super lit channel commanders. Ankoku, Ezreal, Cesith, Chris, Daniel Henriquez, Demoboy125, Erwin Heckler, Eisel, Heiligkeit, Longo, LWKY, Written, Zephyrinix, and Zerfi. Now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will see you next time. Cheers!